These are the most spectacular, self-inflicted downfalls of modern celebrity. Number 10. Bill Cosby, the fall of America's dad. For decades, William Henry Cosby Jr. was more than just a comedian. He was a cultural monolith, the embodiment of moral authority, family values, and respectable Black American success. As Dr. Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show, he represented the ideal father, the gentle mentor, the man who could do no wrong. His legacy was etched in stone, untouchable. But beneath that impeccably tailored sweater, there was a shadow, a hidden history that stretched back decades, whispered about in closed circles, yet systematically suppressed by the very weight of his own stardom. Born in Philadelphia, Cosby's rise was relentless, from breaking barriers in stand-up comedy and television, becoming the first Black actor to star in a dramatic series, I Spy, to redefining American family programming in the 1980s. He was an innovator. The Cosby Show was wholesome, aspirational, and globally adored. Cosby became a spokesperson for education, a massive philanthropist, and a vocal moral critic of culture. This authority, this unassailable veneer of morality, was the perfect mechanism for deception. His power was so immense that for years, any dissent or allegation was instantly crushed, dismissed as tabloid fodder or the confused memory of disgruntled individuals. The sheer adoration of the American public served as the ultimate legal defense. The first seismic crack came in 2005. Andrea Constand, a former employee at Temple University, filed a civil suit alleging that Cosby had drugged and sexually assaulted her in 2004. The details were disturbing. A drug known as Quaaludes, offered under the guise of relaxation or medication, and then the assault, leaving her with fractured memories. Then District Attorney Bruce Castor determined he did not have enough evidence for a criminal case, leading him to make a fateful public promise. He would not prosecute Cosby, a move intended to help Constand pursue justice in the civil courts. In reliance on this agreement, Cosby was unable to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in his civil deposition, where he gave highly damaging testimony, admitting to obtaining Quaaludes and giving them to women he wanted to have sex with. The civil case was quietly settled, the details sealed, and the media ultimately moved on. The public, eager to believe in their hero, sighed in relief. Cosby's reputation remained largely intact until 2014, when a fellow comedian, Hannibal Buress, publicly referenced the allegations during a stand-up routine, calling Cosby a rapist. The viral moment created a cultural shift. The anonymity and volume of the internet gave power to the dozens of women who had been silenced for decades. Over 60 women came forward independent of each other, detailing a nearly identical method of operation that spanned from the 1960s to the 2000s. A pattern of calculated grooming, the use of powerful sedatives, and sexual assault. The whispers had become an avalanche. The full story of Bill Cosby's conviction and the stunning legal maneuver that followed demonstrates that even decades of built-up moral capital can be utterly erased by the weight of absolute truth. His fall was not just a personal scandal, it was the symbolic collapse of a cultural belief that great artistry could somehow grant absolution for monstrous crimes. We will explore the stunning legal twist that followed in a later entry. Number 9. Fan Bingbing, the Silence of the Dragon. In the world's second-largest economy, celebrity does not just mean fame, it means state-sanctioned power. Fan Bingbing was the epitome of that power. She was one of the world's highest-paid actresses, a global fashion icon, and a brand that generated billions. Her success was a point of national pride. her image meticulously protected by the full force of the Chinese entertainment machine. She was quite simply too big to fail. By 2018, Fan Bingbing had conquered both East and West. Starring in Hollywood blockbusters and dominating international ad campaigns, she was an economic force. Her fortune was immense, her power seemingly unassailable. The scandal that brought this empire down began not with a moral failing, but with a challenge to the state's authority. The practice was known as yin-yang contracts, an illegal yet pervasive system of tax evasion common in the Chinese film industry. The yin contract, the small official salary, was submitted to the tax authorities. The yang contract, the true, much larger payment, was kept secret. The system was exposed by a prominent television host, Chu Yonggen, who published the contracts on social media. When the evidence linked directly to Fan Bingbing, the government's response was immediate and brutally efficient. In July 2018, Fan Bingbing vanished. Not just from social media, which suddenly went silent, but entirely from public life. For over 3 months, one of the world's most recognizable faces was gone. No interviews, no press conferences, no tweets. She was simply erased from the digital and physical world, fueling global speculation and fear. Was she in detention? Under house arrest? The chilling silence was the state's most effective weapon, demonstrating its complete dominance over even its most revered figures. When she finally reappeared, the message was delivered through a lengthy, highly formalized public apology, a performance of absolute submission to the state. The financial penalty was staggering, a combined fine and required back taxes totaling approximately $131 million. Fan Bingbing's downfall was not a mere celebrity scandal. It was a demonstration of absolute political control. She was not jailed, but she was blacklisted. Her massive fame used to send an unmistakable warning to every wealthy individual in the country. The price for cheating the system is not just your money, but your entire career and the very memory of your existence. Her image remains stained, a permanent reminder that in China, the state's power is the only true superstar. Number 8. Hush Puppy, the influencer who loved luxury more than freedom. The digital age created a new hierarchy of fame, the social media influencer, and few mastered the art of digital swagger like Ramon Olorunwa Abbas, better known to his 2.5 million Instagram followers as Hush Puppy. He was the aspirational dream made manifest. He cultivated an image of unbelievable, effortless wealth, flaunting custom-made designer outfits, $300,000 watches, and a globe-trotting lifestyle. His persona was a declaration: this is what success looks like. He claimed to be a real estate developer, but his true profession was in the digital shadows. Hush Puppy's opulent lifestyle was entirely funded by sophisticated large-scale cyber fraud and money laundering, primarily through business email compromise schemes. These were highly organized global crimes targeting high-level institutions, businesses, and wealthy individuals, stealing millions of dollars in highly organized attacks. BEC schemes often involve hackers gaining unauthorized access to corporate email accounts to redirect massive payments into fraudulent accounts. The illusion came crashing down in June 2020 with an operation straight out of a spy thriller. A joint task force by the FBI and Dubai police, codenamed Operation Fox Hunt 2, resulted in his spectacular arrest in his luxury apartment. The scale of the seizure was breathtaking: $40 million in cash, 13 luxury cars worth $7 million, 21 laptops, and 47 smartphones, the digital keys to his entire criminal kingdom. The irony was devastating. The very tool he used to build his image, Instagram, was the source of his demise. His relentless need to post every luxurious detail, the private jet bookings, the specific hotel stays, the high-end designer purchases, created the precise breadcrumb trail the FBI needed to track, locate, and dismantle his entire operation. His vanity was his wiretap. Extradited to the United States, Hushpuppi pleaded guilty in 2021 to a single count of conspiracy to engage in money laundering. Court documents revealed his role in schemes that defrauded a U.S. law firm of nearly $1 million and laundered millions more stolen from a bank in Malta. In November 2022, the court delivered the final, crushing sentence: 11 years and 3 months in federal prison, and he was ordered to pay $1.7 million in restitution. Hushpuppi's case is a cautionary tale of the digital age. It proves that no matter how sophisticated the crime, if you chase fame and attention with that stolen wealth, you will eventually leave a trace. He was not caught by a clever detective in the shadows. He was undone by his own insatiable greed for likes. Number 7. Gary Glitter, the glam rock monster. The 1970s belonged to glam rock, and at its flamboyant center was Gary Glitter, real name Paul Francis Gadd. With his anthemic, stadium rock sound and outrageously theatrical costumes, he became a global sensation. Hits like Rock and Roll Part 2 defined an era. His persona was wild, eccentric, and seemingly harmless, a figure of fun and fantasy. The truth beneath the sequins and platform boots was one of profound, calculated evil. Unlike many celebrity downfalls, Glitter's unraveling was not a single moment, but a slow, terrifying exposure of serial predation that spanned decades and crossed continents. He used the shield of his fame, the access, the adoration, to target the most vulnerable. The initial legal reckoning occurred in 1997 when he was arrested in the United Kingdom. The crime, possession of child pornography. He was convicted in 1999 and served time. However, upon his release, he attempted to escape his past by restarting his life in Southeast Asia. This escape proved tragically short-lived. In 2006, he was arrested and convicted in Vietnam for committing obscene acts with 2 young girls, receiving a 3-year sentence. He was a predator who simply transported his criminal behavior to new jurisdictions, believing his former fame would offer continued protection. After serving his time and being deported back to the UK, he was placed on the sex offenders register for life. However, in the wake of the wider public investigations into historical abuse in the UK, cold cases were reopened. In 2015, Glitter faced a final, devastating trial, covering crimes committed more than 30 years earlier. He was found guilty of multiple historical sexual offenses against minors dating back to the 1970s and 80s, including attempted rape of an 8-year-old child and unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison. He was later recalled to prison after breaching his parole conditions, confirming the court's original assessment of his incurable threat to society. Gary Glitter's story is a profound document on the failure of systems to protect children from the power of a celebrity. His fame was not a shield. It was a sophisticated disguise. He used the adoration of millions to draw his victims close, concealing his predatory nature behind the dazzling spectacle of a rock star. The shame of his legacy is now absolute. His music purged from airwaves, his name synonymous with the ultimate betrayal. Number 5. Armie Hammer, the Hollywood Science Horror Show. Armie Hammer was built for Hollywood. He was the great-grandson of oil tycoon Armand Hammer, a name synonymous with American wealth and power. With classic looks, undeniable talent, and the easy charisma of an old-school leading man, his career was on a flawless trajectory toward A-list stardom. He was, by all accounts, the industry's golden boy. Even as his public image ascended, there were whispers of a dark, demanding personal life. An abrupt end to his seemingly perfect marriage in 2020 was the first visible crack. Yet no one outside his inner circle predicted the sheer, terrifying nature of the storm that was about to break. In early 2021, the digital floodgates opened. Anonymous social media accounts began publishing screenshots of highly explicit private messages allegedly sent by Hammer to various women. The content was shocking, containing graphic discussions of non-consensual acts, violent sexual fantasies, and disturbing references to cannibalism. The text painted a picture of a man engaging in extreme emotional and psychological coercion, often manipulating women who were younger or easily impressed by his celebrity. One woman, Courtney Vucevic, alleged to the press that he had said he wanted to break my rib and barbecue and eat it. The fantasy was dark. The alleged behavior was deeply controlling. The allegations quickly led to a formal sexual assault investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department concerning a claim of violent rape in 2017. Though the LAPD ultimately declined to pursue criminal charges in 2023, citing insufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, the decision was irrelevant to his career. The industry performed an instantaneous, aggressive cancellation. Hammer was immediately dropped by his talent agency and publicist. High-profile projects, including the romantic comedy Shotgun Wedding and the Broadway play The Minutes, saw him step down or be removed entirely. His fame evaporated, replaced by a permanent, toxic stain. Armie Hammer's story is a modern Hollywood tragedy. It demonstrated the lethal power of digital evidence and how quickly an industry built on illusion will jettison its most beautiful asset when the private behavior becomes too terrifyingly public. His career was a neutron bomb, a sudden, total implosion that left nothing behind. He went from the height of Hollywood to working in the Cayman Islands, his name permanently associated with the unthinkable. Number 5. R. Kelly, the cult of the R&B king. The music industry has always created larger-than-life figures, but R. Kelly became a sovereign king, a genius songwriter, vocalist, and producer. His career spanned 3 decades, providing the soundtrack to a generation. His stardom was massive, overwhelming any attempts at scrutiny. The whispers of his predatory behavior, however, dated back to the 1990s, including the infamous 1994 illegal marriage to the then 15-year-old singer, Aaliyah. Despite civil suits, the 2002 indictment on child pornography charges, from which he was acquitted in 2008, his career continued not just to survive, but to thrive. His power created a culture of silence and complicity. Evidence later presented in court detailed a shocking truth. Kelly did not just commit abuse. He ran a sophisticated criminal enterprise. He used his fame and wealth to recruit, confine, and systematically exploit young women and girls. Victims were often required to call him daddy, follow strict rules about eating, clothing, and digital communication, and were moved across state lines under duress, all to serve his sexual demands. His authority was absolute. His operation, cult-like. The definitive collapse came not from law enforcement initially, but from journalism and the cultural movement of the #MeToo era. The 2019 docuseries Surviving R. Kelly gave voice to dozens of victims and witnesses, creating a cultural groundswell that finally made it impossible for the music industry, corporate partners, and the public to look away. The years of suppressed testimony created a mountain of public outrage. The pressure led to dual federal investigations. In 2021, a federal jury in Brooklyn, New York convicted him on all 9 counts of racketeering and Mann Act violations predicated on decades of criminal conduct, including sexual exploitation of children and forced labor. He was later convicted in a second federal trial in Chicago on child pornography and obstruction charges. R. Kelly was sentenced to a combined 31 years in federal prison. His case was not merely a crime of passion, it was proof of a criminal organization operating in plain sight, protected by millions of record sales and the powerful infrastructure of the music world. He used his iconic status and his art to build a fortress of abuse. It ultimately became his final cell.
Number 4. Bobby Shmurda, The Streets versus the Charts. The year 2014 was dominated by a catchy, explosive track called Hot Nigga and the worldwide phenomenon known as the Shmoney Dance. The song's architect was 19-year-old Brooklyn rapper Bobby Shmurda, real name Aquili Pollard. He went from anonymous to international sensation in a matter of weeks, poised to become the next massive figure in New York rap, a burst of raw, viral street energy. The double life and the incriminating lyrics. The problem was that Shmurda's art was a little too real. His rapid fame was built on the back of his genuine, deep-seated ties to a local criminal organization known as GS9, or G-Stone Crips. His music, featuring open discussion of drug dealing, violence, and turf wars, was, as one NYPD official later described it, almost like a real-life document of what they were doing on the street. The lyrics became literal evidence. Just as his career was reaching critical mass, poised for global touring, lucrative deals, and the height of celebrity, the hammer fell. On December 17, 2014, Shmurda and over a dozen members of GS9 were arrested following a massive, months-long NYPD investigation. The charges were extensive, serious, and comprehensive: conspiracy to commit murder, weapons possession, reckless endangerment, and drug dealing. Authorities claimed Shmurda was not just an associate, but the leader of a violent, organized criminal enterprise responsible for murders and shootings across Brooklyn. Shmurda was held on a massive $2 million bail, unable to leverage his new fame and wealth to secure his immediate release. For 2 years, he languished in Rikers Island, watching his fame fade while awaiting trial. In 2016, facing an insurmountable case, Shmurda accepted a plea deal. Crucially, he did this to secure a better sentence for his co-defendants, particularly his friend Rowdy Rebel. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of third-degree conspiracy and 1 count of criminal weapons possession. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, later reduced to 5 with time served and good behavior. Bobby Shmurda sacrificed his freedom and his multi-million-dollar future to maintain his loyalty to the streets. His trajectory was violently derailed. While he was released in 2021 and has attempted a comeback, the cultural moment he had seized was lost forever. His story is a chilling reminder that no matter how big the celebrity, the weight of a prior life and the code of the streets can always reach out and pull you back down. Number 3. Bill Cosby, The Legal Reckoning and the Procedural Shock. The story of Bill Cosby's downfall does not end with his 2018 conviction. It is a convoluted, controversial legal saga that demonstrated the stunning power of procedural law and left the entire justice system questioning its own fairness. The conviction and the signature pattern. Following a mistrial in 2017, prosecutors in 2018 pursued a retrial for the assault of Andrea Constant. This time, the judge made a critical decision, allowing 5 additional accusers to testify. This testimony was devastating, painting a clear, unified picture of a decades-long signature pattern of calculated grooming, use of powerful sedatives, and sexual assault. Cosby was convicted of 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. The images of the cultural titan being perp-walked in an orange jumpsuit was the final devastating symbol of his fall. Then came the stunning twist. In June 2021, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court delivered a controversial ruling. The conviction was vacated. Cosby was ordered to be released immediately. The court's decision hinged entirely on the actions of former District Attorney Bruce Castor in 2005. Castor, seeking to help Constant in her civil suit, had publicly made an agreement. If Cosby gave a deposition in the civil case, he would not be criminally prosecuted. The Supreme Court ruled that the subsequent prosecutor's decision to use that civil deposition testimony in which Cosby made highly incriminating admissions against him in the criminal trial violated Cosby's Fifth Amendment due process rights. The court reasoned that Cosby had detrimentally relied on that initial promise when he gave his testimony. The effect was immediate and seismic. Cosby was released from prison. The legal distinction was crucial. The court did not declare him innocent of the underlying crime, only that his rights had been violated during the complex process of obtaining his testimony. The ruling was a massive blow to the victims who had testified and created massive public outrage, reinforcing the painful truth that for the most powerful, there is always an escape clause. Even if it is a narrow, decades-old procedural error. The icon was destroyed, but his legal journey remains a deeply controversial scar on the face of justice. Number 2. Chumlee, the Pawn Star's hidden arsenal. On the opposite end of the fame spectrum from the Hollywood scion and the musical legend sits the reality star. Austin Russell, better known as Chumlee from the History Channel hit Pawn Star, was the lovable, goofy sidekick. His persona was built on being relatable, harmless, and often the butt of the joke. He was a staple of cable TV, the innocent face of the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. Chumlee's downfall was spectacularly mundane until the facts were revealed. In March 2016, a seemingly minor sexual assault investigation led police to raid Chumlee's home in Las Vegas. While no charges were ever filed for the initial sexual assault allegation, what authorities found inside his residence was a shock to his carefully constructed persona. Police discovered an arsenal, 12 firearms, some unregistered and illegal, and a pharmacy's worth of illicit substances. The inventory included crystal methamphetamine, marijuana, Xanax, and evidence of possible cocaine use. His home was not a harmless bachelor pad, it was a storage locker for a serious criminal enterprise. Chumlee was arrested and faced 20 felony counts, including drug and weapons charges. The dichotomy between the goofy, sweet reality star and the man who housed an arsenal and a drug stash was jarring. He ultimately took a plea deal, which allowed him to avoid jail time. He pleaded guilty to a felony weapons charge, unlawful possession of a firearm, and a gross misdemeanor of attempted drug possession. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation and counseling, and was required to surrender all the seized items. The felony charge was eligible for dismissal upon successful completion of his probation, leaving him with a misdemeanor conviction. Chumlee's story is a profound demonstration of the insulation that fame and wealth can provide. His fame afforded him the financial means to indulge in illegal activity, and critically, the legal resources to negotiate a deal that kept him out of prison. The public persona was an elaborate facade, hiding a man who was living a secret, illegal life. While he avoided incarceration, the illusion of the lovable sidekick was irrevocably destroyed, replaced by the undeniable truth of a felon with a hidden arsenal. The 9 stories we've explored, from the political reckoning of Fan Bingbing to the systemic abuse of R. Kelly, paint a chilling picture of modern celebrity. Fame grants access,
it grants wealth, and most of all, it grants a temporary, seductive sense of invincibility. It convinces the powerful that they can operate outside the same rules that govern the rest of us. They become the architect of their own reality, believing their crafted image will forever shield the truth. But the digital age changed the rules of the game. Investigative journalism, social media, and the collective voice of those who were once silenced now have a power stronger than any Hollywood contract or record deal. The curtain is pulled back faster now, the secrets are harder to keep, and the reckoning is often, more brutal. The celebrity, once a demigod, becomes a cautionary tale. Their fall from grace serves as a painful, necessary lesson for us all. Always question the pedestal. Understand that the light shining on fame often creates the deepest, darkest shadows. And know that every empire, no matter how glorious, will eventually collapse under the weight of its own lies. What do you think is the ultimate lesson from these spectacular downfalls? Did justice truly prevail in all these cases? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the darkest corners of fame compelling, please like this video, subscribe for more documentary content, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next expose.